let's move on to the selection tools. This first one here, the marquee tools. If you click down, you're going to see there's rectangular, elliptical, single row, and single column marquee tool. Let's try the rectangular one. Turns into a crosshair. Click down and drag. Notice that it's free transform. If you hold down the shift key, then it will make a perfect square. To click off a selection, just click outside of it and it'll disappear. Same thing with the elliptical. Got ovals here. Pull down the shift key, becomes a circle. And single column, single row. That's seriously like 1 pixel row and 1 pixel column. I don't really use those two very often. Okay, let's keep going. The lasso tools. Click down. There's the regular lasso tool, polygonal, and magnetic. So I'll show you what those do. With the regular lasso tool, when you click down and start dragging, you're creating an amorphous shape. Let's zoom in a little more so you can see this. So the regular lasso tool, I'm gonna click off. If I want to select this little fish, let's say, I'm going to use my lasso tool to select him, but notice it's not perfect. I had this little part that I missed, but you can add to it by holding down the shift key, and if you click and drag over it and then let go, okay, I have added more. I'm going to keep going. Shift, select, and then if you let it go, it'll just connect back up to where your first point was. So we've added to a selection, but you can also subtract from a selection by holding down the Option or Alt key, and you'll notice a little minus sign appear by the lasso. And then if you click and drag while holding down the Option or Alt keys, you can see that you can subtract from a selection as well. So now I have my fish. That is the regular lasso tool. I'm going to click off. Let's look at the polygonal lasso tool. This one, it's a bunch of clicks. You click and you notice there's like this rubber band thing going on, and then you click again and click, click. So it's a series of straight lines. You will not get to do curves here. But if the lines are short enough, you can go around curves, but it may not be the best way to do curves. And then click off. Oops. Okay, there we go. Also, you can do Command D to deselect. Okay, let's look at the magnetic lasso. If you start clicking and then dragging along the edge of the object, I'm not clicking at all anymore. It's finding these points, interpolating the difference of the color of the pixels to give you this outline. And so all you have to do is just drag it along the edge and it will select it. So once you get to where you started, you just click off and there's your selection. Now we have these other tools, which is very handy. You click down. Object Selection Tool. This was a game changer. It's a fairly new tool, but when you hover over an area and you see, whoa, okay, that certain areas turn pink, so the computer or the program is recognizing certain shapes. So I'm selecting this fish again. I just click down and the fish is selected, which is pretty cool. So let's try this other one, Quick Selection Tool, Command D to get out of it. And this is, you can control the size of this Quick Selection Tool up here where it says, right now it's 45 pixels. So if you want to make it a little smaller, you can do that up here. Once you start clicking on an object and moving it around, it recognizes a shape and then it'll select it that way as well. And when you're clicking multiple objects, it's selecting them all, because up here you see that it has the plus, so it's like you're holding the shift key. So if you click on the minus and you click on an object, you are deselecting that area. So you can do it like that as well. And then finally, we have this thing called the magic wand, which was really cool for a while before the object selection tool. I'm going to hit Command D to get rid of the selections. And what the magic wand does is it selects like colors together. So if I click on the fish, it's clicking light colors. So with this, you can add by holding down the shift key again, and then you can keep adding to the selection. But this isn't as efficient as some of the other tools that we just looked at. And part of it is, I'm going to deselect here. Part of it is because of this thing called tolerance. 32 tolerance is default, but if you go higher or lower, it changes the type of selections that it makes. So let's say we do a tolerance of 10. So it's not as tolerant, which means when you go back here, now all of a sudden the areas that it selects with the light colors is a lot smaller. And then conversely, if I say a tolerance of 60 and I start selecting, okay, it's selecting more colors. So sometimes you'll need to play around with the tolerance to get the selection you want, but with these other better tools available, I really don't think you even need to deal with a magic wand so much anymore. It's really good for large areas of light colors. So I'm going to turn it back to the default 32. And then if I select here, okay, did a pretty good job right here of selecting the dark area. So remember when I was showing you the polygonal lasso and I said it's not good for curves? To make really precise selections, sometimes you need to use the pen tool. Yes, and it works just like the pen tool that you've been using in Illustrator. So I'm just going to show you real quick how this works. There is a paths panel over here, and once you start making selections, it's going to start a path layer for you. So just like you did with the Bezier curves in Illustrator, you can just go ahead and make your selection same way, close it up, and then we have the work path. Double click and then just give it a name. Until you give it a name, it's just going to be called work path and it won't be saved. So once you have the selection done, down here at the bottom of the paths panel, you're going to see a bunch of different options. The first one, fill path, with foreground color. The foreground color here is white, so it's filled with white. Command Z. Over here it says stroke path with brush. So I do that, and it's basically stroking it with the default brush settings, in which case this is a 700 size pixel, which is very large. We'll get into all that later. And then here, it's a load path as a selection. So this is pretty much what I use most of the time. Now there's my selection. Okay, Command D, and if I select the path again, here's some. This is not applicable because make work path from selection. What that does is, let me go back and just select something with the lasso tool. I have the shape. If I select this, the make path, it goes ahead and makes this path. And notice it has created a new layer. Let's call that path 2. And then I can go back to my path 1 or to my path 2. And that's a great thing about this paths panel. It allows you to save multiple selections, multiple paths, so you can use them later or even make changes to that path. Same way you do with Illustrator paths. So you remember you hit A and turn it into direct select arrow, and then if you click on this path, you can now grab it by the different points and also edit the Bezier curves. And then this other one is add a layer mask. We're not going to get into that right now. Masking is a whole nother thing. So, but this one, it's add a path just like adding layers. You can do this before you start making a path if you want, but you don't necessarily have to. So that's the path tool in a nutshell. I can go ahead and just delete that as well. The other settings are just like the path tools that you've used in Illustrator, and it works the same way. And then finally, let's go into the crop tool. So if you hold down on the crop tool, the slice tools are really kind of more for website stuff, so we're not going to go into that, but let's just go into the basic crop tool. Once you select it, you see the crosshair with a little select tool icon. I'm gonna Command minus and zoom out a little bit, and then you can crop using these handles that appear. So if I say commit, now my image is no longer 1920. Okay, Command Z. You can also click and drag the crop tool, free or holding down the shift and getting it proportional. And when you let go and you commit or you hit enter, now it has cropped. If you take the move tool and move that layer around, you'll see that the rest of the image is no longer there. Once you crop an image, that information is gone forever. So you have to kind of be careful when you're cropping that. Make sure you don't need that information. Command Z, because there was all this stuff here. You may need it for something else. And this perspective crop tool is kind of a weird tool also, and it's pretty involved, so I'm not going to get into it in this video, but I'll provide a link if you're curious about what it does.